external displays and everything, and it like tanked my FPS horribly. I was like, all right, we know streaming on a Mac, at least on a MacBook.
I guess there's only so much you can squeeze out of that thing. All right,
Yeah.
stream has started. Let me pull up the little BVR tutorial that I have on the server.
Don't.
All right, so this stream is basically going to be like a recap of all the funny little drawings I made on the BVR tutorial that is on my server. So there's a bunch of little drawings and examples and pictures of what different like BVR maneuvers and tactics are. The reason why you want to gain altitude before firing, how missiles bleed speed, so on, so on, so on. So at least before watching this stream, well, for the people who rewatch it in the future once it's over, I would at least expect some of you have at least taken a look at the BVR tutorial itself, all the little pictures and drawings and examples I have in there. So what I want to do this stream is basically just do a recap of basically all of the things and how to apply them and what do they look like and when you use each one of these. So first thing I'm going to do is going to be like very straightforward. I'm just going to showcase like the difference in altitude at the moment of doing BVR. So altitude gives your missiles better performance because at higher altitudes the air density is lower, which means your missile can reach higher speeds, and they also don't bleed their speed as quickly. So I'm gonna launch the match. The first thing we're gonna do is I want you to just fly in a straight line towards me, like maybe like a few hundred feet above multipath, and I'm gonna be the one firing high up. Yeah, just a few hundred feet above multipath, and I'm gonna be the one flying up. Right, so we're gonna be flying F-15Es with Sparrows for the sake of the tutorial and just going as fast as we can.
All right.
So we have infinite ammo, we have infinite fuel. Hello, Yuri. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna go full afterburner. Just go full afterburner all the way, and I'm gonna be gaining altitude, and you're gonna be flying on the deck. Right, just to kind of like simulate the main, like the kinematic differences between two players. So on my signal, we fire the missiles at the same time, and you don't have to maneuver. You just fly in a straight line without doing anything.
Oh, right now, like not hitting the deck, or just on the deck.
Just keep flying on the deck in a straight line towards me, and then just don't maneuver. When I fire the missile, just don't maneuver. Just keep flying in a straight line, because I want to showcase the difference on how quickly each missile reaches the target when fired from really high and when fired from really low. Just ready up the missile.
Yep.
Warm it up. Now ready?
Yep.
3, 2, 1, now. And just fly in a straight line. Yep. Now when doing BVR, altitude for the most part is going to be your biggest friend, because altitude is going to allow your missiles to reach higher top speeds, and it's also going to allow your missiles to retain this speed for a longer time. So in this case, I am above them, and I'm also going faster.
You're going Mach 2.
Yeah, I'm basically going Mach 2. I fired my Sparrow from like almost perfect parameters. Now maybe I hit his missile earlier. We'll see. There you go. Mine hit first, and yours probably missed.
Right on top of me. Yeah.
So
I'm
gonna
pull
up the.
I think that was splash damage.
Yeah, no, that was basically just you dead. Now let me pull up the NFT that I drawn here on the radar tutorial, all the way up. This little NFTs. So the launch parameters of your missiles matter. Altitude and speed actually makes your missiles overall better. So we have a little graph. We have altitude on the vertical axis and distance on the left. So if you fire a missile from very low altitude, something like a Sparrow would at most reach Mach 2.3. Now, if you guys have used a Sparrow before, you will know that the missile just burns for a really long time, but it's still like very slow. So what happens with the Sparrow is that the missile is so draggy and it's affected by aerodynamic drag force so fucking much that if you fire the Sparrow on the deck, the maximum speed it's going to reach is like Mach 2.3, maybe even less if the missile maneuvers. And the reason for this is because the sustainer motor of the Sparrow is way too weak, and it just doesn't allow the missile to overcome drag. So the faster an object is going, the more aerodynamic drag is going to experience. So in this case of the Sparrow, because the missile is so draggy and the booster is so weak, like once it reaches Mach 2.3 or something like that, it just basically hits a brick wall. So if you fire a Sparrow while very low altitude, then the top speed is going to be abysmal. And also it's going to lose speed very quickly because, again, aerodynamic drag. If you fire a missile from medium altitude, say for example something like 5,000 meters or 6,000 meters, your missile is going to reach a little bit better top speed because the air density at higher altitudes is lower. So there are less molecules of air obstructing the way of your missile. So it doesn't slow it down as much. So at this altitude, your missile might actually reach a little bit better top speed because, again, the air density is lower. So there's a little bit less aerodynamic drag. And not only does your missile reach a better top speed, but it also retains it for a little bit longer. And then the situation that just happened on this example is I'm firing my missiles from insanely fast, from really high up. So my missile reaches a disgusting top speed and also retains it for a very long time. While the missile that he fired at me was fired from the deck, and on top of that, it also has to climb to intercept me. So if I was to make a drawing, it will basically look like this. So we have the ground all the way down here, like that. So I am the guy in red. I'm flying insanely fast right here. And then Moroller is multipathing, firing at me. So this missile that I fire on him, it's a Sparrow. It basically comes from outer space. It's being fired from insanely high speeds, basically going Mach 2. Just going Mach 2 at like 10,000 meters. Like my Sparrow is going to reach a gigantic amount of speed and it's going to retain it for a long time. And not only that, but because my missile is coming down towards him, gravity is also going to help my missile retain its speed, especially since the missile is so heavy. On the other hand, the missile that Moroller fired at me had to fly through dense air for a very long time. And on top of that, it also had to climb. So gravity is going to be slowing this missile down a fuck ton. So because I'm going so fast, the missile has to lead way too fucking much to intercept my trajectory. And because it's so fucking slow, it just sometimes is not capable of doing jack shit. So the first thing to note about this tutorial, or just for BVR overall, is that, well, your launch parameters matter a fuck ton. The faster you go, and hopefully the higher up you go, the further away your missiles are going to reach. So those are like the very, very basics. I need some extra tutoring. That's what we're doing here. Right? I'm just gonna try to explain everything as clearly as I can. I'm gonna try to be going slowly, make sure everything is explained clearly. So spawn whenever you want, and we're gonna do the same. So this time, do you use feet or kilometers for altitude?
I use feet.
Okay, let me change to feet then.
I can convert. I can convert on the fly.
Okay. So this time, let's go full afterburner towards each other. But I want you to fly at 20,000 feet. So climb to 20,000 feet and then just level out and keep flying towards me. So now what I'm gonna teach is gonna be cranking and why it's so important. So in this little experiment, we're going to be flying at the exact same altitude. So 20,000 feet is around 63, maybe 6,400 meters. So we're going to be flying at the exact same altitude, full afterburner towards each other. And what I'm going to do is, we're going to fire the missile at the same time. However, I am going to crank, and he is going to keep flying in a straight line towards me. So, moreover, I just want you to fly in a straight line towards me without maneuvering during the entire exercise, and I'm gonna be the one cranking. And I want to show you what the crank actually does. So again, no lofting, no nothing, just fly in a straight line. Ready up the missile.
Okay. Yep. Also, by the way, you have feet in the HUD.
Yeah. So 3, 2, 1, fire. Now cranking is basically just flying at an angle towards the target. So in this case, I'm going to bring Marauder to the very edge of my radar. You can see at the very edge, right? This is cranking. Now what I'm doing here is I'm basically flying at an angle towards him. And because I'm flying at an angle, his missile actually has to travel a little bit further distance in order to reach me. So in this case, we fired at the same time at the same altitude, but my missile reached him sooner and his didn't hit me. So
You completely broke my log 3 times.
So what exactly happened here? Now we're gonna look at the next picture. We're gonna take a look at cranking. This. Cranking. What and why? So if you're in a BVR engagement and you fly in a straight line towards the enemy guy, then the missile doesn't really have to maneuver at all. Like you're basically flying in a straight line very fast towards the missile. You're basically running into it. So the missile from the enemy guy is gonna reach you sooner. However, if you crank, say for example, this is Marauder, he's flying in a straight line towards me, but I am cranking, I'm flying at an angle. I'm gonna copy this picture and put it on Paint. Give me a second. Here. So what's happening here is instead of me flying in a straight line towards him, I'm flying at an angle here. And this angle was 60 degrees. Because that is the gimbal limit of my radar. I want to bring my target to the very edge of the radar. So what's happening here is my missile is flying in a straight line towards him because he is not maneuvering, right? He's flying in a straight line towards me, so my missile doesn't have to do anything. However, because I am cranking, I'm flying at an angle, his missile has to fly a longer path in order to reach me. And it kind of looks like this. I'm going to make a different drawing here just to showcase it again. So let's say, for example, this is me. I'm firing a missile and then I start cranking at an angle. And then Marauder is right here and he's just flying in a straight line. He's going to keep flying in a straight line like this. Now, when I fire my missile, it's going to fly in a straight line towards Marauder because he is not maneuvering. And as a matter of fact, my missile is going to intercept him sooner in around this location, and Marauder explodes. So because Marauder is flying in a straight line, doesn't mean that he's flying very fast towards the missile, which means my missile has to just reaches him sooner. And also because Marauder is not maneuvering, my missile just flies in a straight line, which means he retains a lot of speed. However, the missile that Marauder launched at me, the very moment I start cranking, the missile has to start leading and deviate towards this location, right? Because you need to keep in mind that the missile doesn't fly directly towards the target, it tries to intercept. So if I'm going this direction, the missile is going to try to intercept the location where I'm going to be. It's pulling a lot of lead. So when I crank like this, I make his missile travel a longer distance because you can see my magnitude towards him is a lot lower because I'm flying at an angle. So I'm flying slower towards his missile. And not only that, but I'm also making his missile travel a longer time. It's also maneuvering a little bit, so it's going to be losing a little bit of speed here. So something as basic as cranking towards the target in a BVR engagement already makes his missile fly a longer distance. So that is what cranking is useful for. And actually, I feel like I'm doing this the opposite way. I should be at least explaining the example and then showing the gameplay. So I'm gonna move on. Now we can take a look at the F-pole. And the F-pole is basically just cranking, but you change direction multiple times along the course. Now you can use the F-pole to kind of outpull enemy missiles, so to say. But it's basically just cranking in one direction, then changing into the other, then changing into the other. How many times you should do this really depends on how far away the enemy missile is. Sometimes you can only do it once, but whatever. But just for demonstration, if you crank into one direction and then you change into the other and then change into the other, like the trajectory of the enemy missile is going to look like this, right? Because it's at first it's trying to intercept your trajectory here, but then when you change direction, the enemy missile has to change all of its course all the way into the opposite direction. And then when you crank into the opposite direction once again, the missile has already lost so much fucking speed that at this point it's basically just a glide bomb. Pretty much, right? So let's do another example again. So we're going to do the exact same thing. I want you to fly in a straight line towards me. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just crank in multiple directions over the course of the engagement. Actually, how about we take M120s? Because I want to showcase the difference on the time until impact. So I think using fire and forget missiles is the way to go. Do you have a
loadout? Just let me.
Yeah, use a.
Copy what you have.
Okay, just take the stock loadout that has the M120C5.
Okay. The 6 or the 8? Yeah, that one. I see.
Okay. Yeah, the one with 6.
Yep.
All right. So once again, we go full afterburner towards each other.
Air, 12 o'clock, low.
There you go. Now we're gonna do it again at 20,000 feet. Now once again, I just want you to fly in a straight line towards me without doing anything during the entire duration of the engagement. So 20,000 feet, I'm gonna level out, and again, just full afterburner towards each other.
Yep.
Now let's accelerate a little bit more. Ready up the missile already?
Lock.
Execute.
Alright, 3, 2, 1, now. So I fired the missile, and I'm going to start cranking into one direction. In this case, I'm just going to crank to the left. So I'm going to bring the target towards the very edge of my radar, which is around 60 degrees. And I'm just going to keep flying this way. Now, this is going to make his missile fly towards my location and try to intercept. And that missile is going to have to travel a very long distance. Now, after flying in this crank direction for a little bit, I'm going to switch into the other direction and do a little bit of an F-ball. So I'm gonna bring it into the other side of the radar, cranking in this direction. His missile has gone pitbull on me, and right now I just made the missile do a very sharp turn into the other direction. And look, his missile has not reached me yet. As a matter of fact, the missile is basically slowed down so much, it's already passed behind me. That is not gonna reach me at all. So in this situation, just changing trajectory a couple times was enough to make his missile miss. Now let's respawn and do it one more time.
Air, 12 o'clock, high.
There you are. Just again, climb to 20,000 feet. I'm just gonna do the exact same exercise we just did, just one more time, to make sure we all get it.
Right. Is that my missile relocking?
Yes, it's the spare missile because they just have very long battery life. Okay, this time let's fire the missiles from a little bit closer, so hopefully yours actually hits me this time.
Sure.
So ready it up? Ready up the missile already?
Yep, ready.
Holy fuck. No, I cannot answer. Alright. Fire. I'm gonna crank in the opposite direction. So I'm going to crank, gonna bring the target all the way to the edge of the radar. And because this is slightly shorter range, I'm gonna crank into the opposite direction. I'm gonna switch directions a lot sooner. And I wanna see how much difference there is on the time until impact. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and there you go. Your missile didn't even hit me.
Yep.
So in this case, I guess I'm flying so incredibly fast, and I guess I did the timing correctly, that your missile literally didn't have enough speed and could not even intercept me, could not even pull into me in time. So just like that, I was capable of defeating one missile without basically doing anything, just completely for free.
Were you even using any chaff or no?
No chaff, nothing, no such thing as chaff. So that's basically cranking, right? So cranking, you bring your target to the edge of the radar and just keep flying like that. That basically means that you make the incoming missile travel a further distance in order to reach you. And also you bleed the missile energy a little bit, because the missile is going to try to do a curve to intercept your flight path. Now, what we just did is basically the F-ball. So it's the same thing as cranking, but the main thing is you switch directions multiple times. In this case, we only did it twice. So this is what it looked like. So I'm flying in a straight line towards Marauder like this. We fire the missiles. So Marauder is the one in blue. He's going to keep flying in a straight line towards me, right? So the very moment I fire my missile, I start going towards one direction, towards my left, and then I switch directions into the opposite, and I start doing this, right? Meanwhile, he was flying in a straight line the whole time. So my missile, depicted in green, my missile flew in a straight line the entire time. So because my missile flew in a straight line the entire time, it retained a lot of energy. It didn't have to maneuver at all. And also because Marauder is just flying in a straight line towards it, my missile just reaches him sooner. However, his missile initially started leading towards the right because it was trying to intercept my flight path around here, right? So the missile was trying to go into this location to intercept my flight path. However, the very moment I changed direction, the missile had to basically do a whole U-turn to intercept my new flight path. This is probably a little bit too close. Hold on, I'm going to remake it. So, Marauder's missile. Fuck me. So Marauder's missile initially ended up going this direction. And then when I changed into the opposite, the missile had to do a whole U-turn to intercept my new flight path that was this way. And you can see that in this situation, because I managed to make the missile do such a weird turn, it kind of slotted itself into the notch like this. So I was basically like involuntarily notching, so to say, because the missile went this way initially, and then it just had to do a whole U-turn. And in this whole area, the missile ended up bleeding so much fucking speed doing all these maneuvers in this very sharp turn that it literally just didn't have enough energy to intercept me here. Mainly because we're flying the F-15E and it's a very fast plane, but this is basically what just happened. So I ended up bleeding so much energy from his missile that even if it had enough, it would have taken a few more seconds in order to actually reach me. If not, the missile was just going so fucking slow that it was a lot easier to notch, or it gave me enough time to maneuver or do whatever it is that I needed to do, like notching or whatever. And well, in this case, like it just didn't have enough energy whatsoever to even touch me. So that's the F-ball. Now cranking and F-balling.
Energy management.
Oh yes, it is. Now altitude is a double-edged sword. So the first thing we showcase at the very beginning of the tutorial is that yeah, going high is useful because it just gives your missile more energy. However, if you stay high up forever, it's a really fucking big problem. So what we're gonna do next, Marauder, is we're gonna run it again, but this time we're gonna go all the way up to 30,000 feet.
Right.
Yeah, it also helps that the F-15E is insanely fucking fast, but we're just using it as an example here because yeah, the same A120 loadout.
Would you rather crank missiles or notch missiles in the F-15E? Because you're that fucking fast, you can kind of just drag them away.
Sometimes it depends on how close the missile was fired to you. We'll get into that later.
Well, the 15E is a bit of a boat as well, isn't it?
Yeah, but if you're flying very fast and somebody just ambushes you and fires a missile like point blank, your only choice will be to notch.
True.
So let's go to 30,000 feet. Now, what we're gonna do here, Marauder, is you're gonna fly in a straight line towards me at 10,000 feet, and the only difference that we're gonna do is that I'm just gonna lose altitude. I'm gonna drop altitude, right? So altitude is a double-edged sword. It's gonna give your missiles more energy. However, if you stay up there for the entire duration, it also means that the enemy missile will also benefit from the low aerodynamic drag. So ready up the missile,
Yep, ready.
and without lofting, just fire now. So I'm just gonna invert my plane. I'm gonna keep flying directly towards him, but I'm gonna lose a little bit of altitude, right? So what's gonna happen here is, because Marauder is still gonna maintain his altitude, he's gonna keep flying in a straight line towards me while maintaining his altitude, my missile is gonna benefit from the low drag of high altitude all the way. Meanwhile, because I dropped below him, I am dragging his missile into into denser air. So his missile is going to experience a lot more aerodynamic drag. And now, his missile is gonna hit me anyway, but there's gonna be a few seconds of delay between my missile hitting and his hitting me.
It's a good 5-6 seconds.
Yeah, about 5 seconds.
Like 6 seconds. So I will go to the drawing board again. I'm gonna draw the ground.
Back to the whiteboard. We love it.
Back to the whiteboard. Alright. So red is me. This is me, flying at 30,000 feet. And this is Marauder, also flying at 30,000 feet. Now, his missile... Actually, let's draw mine first. So my missile basically stayed at a very high altitude the entire duration. So
The loft would be a bit more dramatic,
yeah,
wouldn't it,
but
as well?
so once again, like, air density is lower at high altitudes, so there are less molecules slowing down your missile, right? So pay attention to this picture. So my missile stayed at high altitude for the entire duration. So it was flying in very low drag air. So it retained its top speed for basically ages. However, because I started diving down towards the ground, Marauder's missile had to dig into denser air, making his missile slower. So dragging his missile into denser air is gonna slow it down a lot easier, right? Because it's gonna experience a lot more aerodynamic drag. Now, even though gravity is helping his missile like retain a little bit more energy, in this case it kind of doesn't matter because my missile just has such a significant advantage over his that it basically gave me like 6 seconds extra time to just abandon the engagement. Like, for example, if this was a Fox 1 engagement like with Sparrows, that means I had 6 missiles to just 6 seconds to get out of the way.
What are you, a Hornet player?
Yeah. So that's what happened there. Now, what is the next thing? So we did the F-ball. We learned about the altitude. So altitude is a double-edged sword, right? So going high up is good because it gives your missiles better parameters. But also, you don't really want to stay up there for too long, because if you stay at high altitude, that also means that the enemy missile is going to be more dangerous. You need to keep in mind that, well, in this demonstration, we're not maneuvering or anything, but the higher up you fly, the less lift your plane is going to generate. So you will need to have a higher speed in order to execute like the same maneuver. But one thing you need to keep in mind is that if you fly at high altitude forever and you have to maneuver, you're going to be bleeding a lot of speed. And you're not going to gain it back. And also, enemy missiles are going to be faster. So if you're flying at very high altitude and you need to inevitably like get in the notch or do a U-turn, you might not have enough time to achieve so. Because your plane is just going to compress, your turn radius is going to be absolutely massive, and, well, you basically just have all the disadvantages. So altitude is a double-edged sword. It's going to give your missiles a lot more energy, but after you fire, you shouldn't really stay up there. Like, you already did your job by climbing, fire your missiles from perfect parameters. Like, you did what you had to do. You shouldn't stay up there. You should be diving the missile into denser air like this. So if we are this guy, we fire the 27ER from very high altitude. The 27ER is gonna stay high up for a very long time. However, because we decided to dive down, like it's depicted on this step 3, the enemy missile is gonna be diving into denser air, is gonna be bleeding a lot of speed. So by the time our missile hits, we will have enough time to maybe just disengage and run away. It also helps that the F-15 is so fucking fat. Okay, I read that one already. Dropping altitude is some sort of cranking, but vertical too. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it's a form of cranking. You're basically making the missile travel a longer distance, and you're also dragging it into denser air. Now the next parts of the tutorial ends up showcasing the vertical notch. So let's step it up a notch. Ready up. Let me see what else we could do. So I don't wanna make Marauder fly like a bot anymore. So I want you to maneuver now. All right, same loadout, minimum fuel. Just spawn in.
Mm-hmm.
So this time I'm gonna showcase lofting. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna fly at around 20,000 feet again. And we're gonna be cranking, so doing the F-pull while maintaining our altitude. So we're gonna fire our missiles, right? We're gonna fire our missiles. We're gonna be basically F-pulling, changing to the left or right, but we're gonna maintain our altitude at all times. And the main difference is gonna be that I am going to loft my missile, and you are just gonna fire it while being level.
Okay.
So lofting is basically when you fire the missile from a higher aspect. So like, for example, when you pitch up before firing, you're basically lofting the missile into higher altitudes, into less dense air. So mainly missiles that burn for a decent amount of time will benefit the most from this. But when you loft missiles, you are basically pushing the missile into a higher altitude, which has less air density. Your missile will be able to reach a higher top speed and retain it for a little bit longer. So here, ready up. Now 3, 2, 1, fire. Now we're gonna crank. Just immediately crank to whatever direction you want. Just maintain that crank. Oh, your missile didn't go a bit below me.
I think yours lost as well. It went pitbull and then lost.
What the fuck just happened? These missiles are fucking stupid. Alright, let's try with sparrows. The loadout with sparrows. I think with sparrows is probably the better choice because they don't loft automatically, so you can actually showcase the difference a little bit better.
Sure.
Is there a reason to ever not loft your missile? No, you should always loft them. There's always a benefit to doing so. I think in this example, just to make it a little bit clear and more isolated, like we're just gonna fly in a straight line without cranking whatsoever, like just flying a straight line towards each other at 20,000 feet. And the main difference is gonna be that I'm going to loft my sparrow a little bit, and yours is gonna be like just fired flat. So let's hard lock immediately. So without cranking or doing anything, just flying a straight line towards each other. At 20,000 feet, there you go. Okay, ready up. 3, 2, 1, fire. So we're gonna fly in a straight line towards each other. So I lofted my Sparrow, and you fired yours level. Now, because I lofted mine, my Sparrow is climbing into a higher altitude. And this allows my Sparrow to fly into slightly more thin air. It's gonna allow my Sparrow to reach a slightly higher top speed and also retain it for longer. Because now my missile is going on the way down. It's just a little bit of benefit. Let's do it again, but let's try an even longer range shot. Now, lofting for the most part has the most effect over very, very long ranges. Because at this kind of ranges where we just fired, like the margin is just like very small. It's only like 1 second of difference, I think. But over very long ranges, it actually... Yeah, over very long ranges, my missile is basically coming from high altitude. Gravity is helping it retain its speed. It is also coming from from an area where it has less drag. So again, just flying a straight line towards each other at 20,000 feet. Like this. Now, ready up the missile already? So this is gonna be like a 60-kilometer long range shot. Alright, 3, 2, 1, fire. And once again, I'm gonna fly in a straight line towards him. I'm gonna try to go down to the 20,000 feet. So my missile is climbing. It's a very long range shot, so it's still climbing a lot. Now the Sparrow benefits quite a bit from this because it has such a long burn time. It actually climbed up quite high. So because my missile climbed to really high altitude, it's gonna stay in a very low drag environment for a very long time, and it'll be able to retain speed very well. Now, lofting mostly has a good effect at very, very long ranges, like we just did.
Your missile hit me at about 12 kilometers.
There you go, and yours didn't hit at all. So yours probably didn't have any energy whatsoever, or maybe just the fact that it reduced the log fucked it up. Alright, let's have a look at what happened. There is a picture for this somewhere. Lofting. So this little picture right here. So lofting is basically just lowering your missile into thicker air. Now, if you compare two missiles, one of them is lofted and one of them was not, we compare them at a random location like here in the middle. The missile that was lofted has very likely reached or maintained a higher top speed because the air at higher altitudes is less dense, so there's less aerodynamic drag, which means the missile reaches a higher top speed and also retains it for a lot longer. Now, in a flat trajectory, because the missile is at the exact same altitude at all times, the aerodynamic drag is going to be slightly higher during the entire duration. And at the same time, it's basically just flying in a straight line flat, and gravity is not helping it. If you compare it to the missile that was lofted, like this one, but at this point, once it reaches the apex and starts diving towards the target, not only is it going to have a higher top speed, but it's also going to retain it for a decent amount of time, because the aerodynamic drag on this section is lower, and also gravity is helping it. So I think one better example to showcase this could be using our 27ERs. So how about we switch planes? So do you have the SM2, right? So let's try with the SM2. So just take the default R27ER loadout, take minimum fuel, and just go. Hello, Lacey. At close range is unnecessary. Sometimes, like maybe against multipathers, because the missile comes from very top aspect, and sometimes they just eat it anyway. But over very, very long ranges, it's always useful, especially on like Fox 1s, because they don't loft automatically. Like the R27ER, the Sparrow, they don't loft automatically. Only Fox 3s do. So for Fox 3s, it's not really that necessary, but for 27ER and such, it really makes a good difference. So again, go full speed, 20,000 feet. I'm gonna be lofting my ER, and yours is gonna be fired from a flat aspect. This is around 20,000 feet. Ready up. Let's keep flying towards each other for a little bit longer. Now 3, 2, 1, fire. So once again, I'm lofting my missile. My 27ER is climbing into higher altitudes. It's climbing into thinner air, and that should allow it to reach a slightly higher top speed, and also it's gonna retain it for a very long time. So once the missile reaches the apex at the very top, it's gonna start diving towards the target. It's gonna be retaining that speed for a very long time. So my missile, for example, is going to hit Marauder at Mach 3, while his missile is gonna hit me at like Mach 2.2. So technically, it gives me a lot more time to react. Let's see if there's any difference. There. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And his missile didn't hit. We have no idea where that missile is. So that is mainly what lofting does to your missile. Mainly Fox 1s, because again, 27ER and Sparrows, they don't loft automatically, so you have to do it yourself. Fox 3s, however, they do it automatically. Sometimes it's a little bit helpful to just like force the missile into climbing a lot more. I think we could probably do that with the F-14, but I don't think it's necessary. Like for lofting, I think missiles that have a very long burn time benefit the most because they can keep accelerating while climbing for a really fucking long time. But again, like lofting mainly has an effect over very long distances. The missile doesn't know where it is. Yeah, it probably just lost lock and it couldn't proxy me with INS. It helps terminal phase of the missile too, since it goes faster, it's more maneuverable. Yeah. Yeah, so once again, going back to the picture, so the missile that got lofted reaches a higher top speed, or at least a similar top speed, but it also just retains it for longer. So in this case, we can probably say that the missile that was lofted is going to have a terminal velocity of, say, Mach 2.5. So let's say the missile that was lofted had a terminal velocity of Mach 2.5, while the missile that had to fly flat all the way probably only has a terminal speed of like Mach 2.1 or less. So the missile that is faster, of course, has a higher chance of catching the target. Especially maybe if the target decides to go cold or maneuver a little bit, then this missile is a lot more likely to hit. Or it just means that this one hits the target sooner. Now, on this little arc that you see right here, you're basically increasing the travel time of your missile just a little bit. But even if your missile is in the air for a little bit longer, it's going to have better terminal parameters against the target. But this effect of lofting is mainly noticeable over very, very long distances. And maybe we can see an effect on those whenever we get like super long range missiles like R-37 or whatever. Like you could technically take something like the R-37 and just loft the absolute shit out of it to force it into climbing, because if we have a very long range missile, mainly like Phoenix or the R-37 in the future, or even the Fakor, so over very long distances, say for example, let's say this is like a 120 kilometer shot. So 120 kilometer shot, very, very long range. Now, because the target is so far away, that means that the missile barely even maneuvers at all, because it is going to try to retain speed. And that's something that is actually coded in the game. So in War Thunder, the missiles maneuver less the farther away the target is from it. That way they can just retain speed, right? So something you could do with something like a AIM-54. AIM-54. So I know the AIM-54 has automatic lofting, but you can force it to loft even more. So AIM-54, also the Sigil. What else do we have that is like very, very long range? The Fakur, of course.
Fakur, yeah. That's basically it, to be honest.
The Fakur. So what you
Maybe
could do,
like one of the missiles launched off of the MiG-25 PD because it's just so damn
yeah.
fast.
So yeah, just pay attention to this distance. So it is a very long range shot. So whenever you force the missile into lofting, it's gonna continue lofting until it reaches the apex, like halfway through, right here. So that means that for the first around 50 kilometers, it was climbing into very thick air. Now, this altitude could be well with like above 20 kilometers of altitude. Like at this altitude, the air density is basically non-existent. Your missile is going to reach a very high top speed. And the best thing of all is because these kind of missiles are so heavy, once they start diving towards the target, gravity is going to actually help them accelerate on the way down because the energy of the missile, like the weight of the missile, is more than sufficient to just overcome the drag right here. I think, as a matter of fact, I could go to StatShark on the missile calculator and showcase this a little bit better. So let's go to missile calculator. And I'm going to use a 27ER. Just as an example, I'm going to use a 27ER. This is going to be a Mach 2 launch. So the start speed is going to be 2,000 kilometers per hour, which is around Mach 2. And this missile is going to be fired from, let's say, 12 kilometers altitude. So this is like an insanely good parameters. The target is going to be at the same altitude, so 12,000 meters, and it's going to be at 100 kilometers away. Now, this example is not going to be lofted, okay? Now we're going to skip ahead. And right here, on these parameters, the R27ER was only capable of traveling around 55 kilometers before exploding. So it was unable to reach the target. So you can see it only traveled 55 kilometers. Now, what happens if, in launch angle, I lofted, say, 20 degrees? So this is me manually lofting a 27ER. Let's see how far away it's going to travel this time. I'm going to skip ahead. And you can see that the 27ER that got lofted actually managed to travel 66 kilometers instead of 55. So that is already an increase in range of, what's that, like 20%? Like almost 20% more range. It still didn't hit the target because it ran out of battery. But as a matter of fact, I think I could create a custom missile, right? So I'm going to create a custom missile. So it's going to be a 27ER. I'm going to create a custom 27ER that has infinite battery life, just to showcase it, right? Performance lifetime, I'm going to give it 200 seconds, which is exaggerated, but still. Create missile name. There. So let's do the little calculations again. So this is an R27ER with infinite battery life that was not lofted, right? So reaches the max distance before detonating. So it only travels 67 kilometers, and the terminal speed was Mach 1.7. So for a very long time, you can see the missile was literally losing a little bit of altitude and tried to intercept the target, and it failed. If we, however, loft the missile like 20 degrees up, it actually... Oh, fuck me. It's being hard capped by the fucking maximum range. I'm stupid. I'm just gonna give it... There you go. Alright, can I do this shit again without being a fucking retard, please? There you go. Missed because the missile is stupid. It passes the target around this point. So at this point, the missile barely has any energy to pull into the target, and it's basically just going... It's already going subsonic. So this missile is going Mach 1 at 67 kilometers. Whereas the missile that was lofted at 67 kilometers is going Mach 3. That's a massive difference. So the missile is gonna climb it to very high altitude. You can see the altitude here is like 23 kilometers. It's still going Mach 3. And during the entire trajectory, all the way down, it's still maintaining Mach 3 because gravity is literally helping it retain speed. You can see right here the speed all the way to the right. It says M321. And you can see like right here, it slowed down a little bit and then it started diving towards the target. It actually accelerated. Like here, it accelerated because of gravity. You can see how lofting actually makes a very big difference over very long distances. So the previous 27ER was literally going Mach 1 at 67 kilometers distance, whereas this one is going Mach 3. So that's kind of the best way to visualize the effect. Hello, Alex. Holy shit, the ER in the SM2 must be insane since you can get it while notching. Yeah, it is really fucking busted. It would be really busted if they didn't shoot it down. Alright, so how about this time now we have a normal BVR duel with like cranking and all that stuff. So let's switch back to the F-15E.
Okay.
And let's take the stock loadout that has the 6 M120C5s. Now here, Marauder, you're allowed to do whatever you want. Like apply whatever knowledge you have on the BVR engagement. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do different things and I'm going to explain as I do. Right?
All right.
So this is instead of being a tutorial anymore, is now going to be a showcase of what I do, why I do it, and its effect. So here you can fire whatever you want, whenever it is that you want, all right? And we are not allowed to notch. We're not allowed to run away from each other. We're not allowed to vertical notch. Just do pure cranking and altitude management, all right?
All right.
All right, so in this engagement, because it's a 1v1 duel, I know there is nobody else to interrupt me. What am I going to do? I'm already going to crank. So I know Marauder is all the way down there. He's an isolated target. I don't have to worry about anybody else. He is my target right now. So I'm already cranking. And the reason why I'm cranking is because I want to minimize my closure towards him. And this is going to give me more time to accelerate and climb to whatever parameters I want. This is what I'm doing right now. I'm basically just cranking to gain myself more time, to gain better speed, better altitude. Now here I'm going Mach 1 point something. And I'm gonna be firing a missile soon. So I'm gonna slowly and very carefully start committing towards him. Like this. I'm going to climb to very high altitude. The very moment he's in front of me, I fire my missile. And remember, altitude is a double-edged sword. I don't want to stay up here forever. So what do? I go into crank again, while dropping altitude a little bit. So I'm being smart. I am not staying up there. I don't want to. It's a double-edged sword. Now, I see his missile went pitbull on me, but that is a very far away launch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the F-pull. I'm going to start cranking to the opposite direction. I'm kind of gambling on this missile actually not hitting me because I'm maneuvering so hard. I think that missile just flew past me. So now I'm basically just perpetually cranking into one way and another. is right there. You can see he is staying up there. My missile is still going towards him. I'm gonna fire another one. My missile barely missed him. This missile also missed. And here okay, there you go. He's dead. I don't think I will be able to outpull this one. It's very close. So there you go.
You may. Yeah. Another thing to note is these missiles have a gimbal launch limit.
Yeah, it's a little bit annoying. So during the entire engagement, I'm basically just cranking the entire time. And I'm being also careful with my altitude and whatnot. So I'm basically applying all of the stuff that I just taught everyone and trying to explain what I do and why. So once again, we're gonna run it again. And initially, again, I'm just gonna crank. I want to minimize my closure with him initially because I want to buy myself some more time so I can accelerate, so I can regain more speed and get into better parameters and start jousting with him. Now this engagement is still slightly artificial because we are not allowed to notch, we're not allowed to do anything, we have to be flying head on towards each other. But on my radar I was seeing some of my missiles literally miss because they could not intercept such a fast target. So the F-15 is way too fucking fast, and a lot of these missiles literally don't have the maneuverability or the speed to actually intercept any of us. So that's basically what's happening. Now here, again, I'm just cranking. I'm gonna start climbing a little bit. Before recommitting, I'm gonna be climbing. And then, I'm gonna be very carefully turning towards them. Because I don't wanna bleed a lot of speed. Here, I fire my missile. And I start cranking in the opposite direction. Cranking while dropping a little bit of altitude. I don't want to stay up here for too long. I'm going to recommit towards him again. I want to fire the second one because I want to make sure I keep him busy. So here's my other launch. I'm gonna continue cranking in the opposite direction. Now, because we're getting so close to each other, I want to start dropping some altitude a little bit. That way, if he fires a missile at me a little bit too close, I will have enough time to at least like get out of the way. Now here he is on the deck. I don't really know if I'll be able to outpull this one. I'm going fast, but probably not fast enough. His missile missed. Now we're in the range and okay, he died first. Now let's see if we can run away from this missile. I don't think we can, but we're gonna go towards the deck and okay. We explode. So for the entire duration of the engagement, we're basically kind of doing the exact same thing. We're doing it correctly too. So we just close the distance a lot and we just die. Now, how about we do one more engagement, but this time, I'm going to be a little bit more stupid. I'm going to allow Marauder to do whatever he wants. He is allowed to apply all the knowledge that he's got for BVR. And I'm going to be the one behaving like a noob. So I'm flying in a straight line towards him. Look. I'm gonna fly in a straight line towards him. Because that's what newbies do. It's gonna fly in a straight line. You can see how he is cranking a little bit and my launch parameters got a little bit worse. So here he is climbing. You can see his altitude in thousands of feet. So he's flying in a straight line towards me while climbing very aggressively. Now I'm gonna fire the very moment I see him inside the nest. Like this. Look, I'm gonna fire my missile, but I'm gonna stay at high altitude. I'm gonna crank just a little bit. So I'm basically just staring at him. I'm going very fast. I'm not dropping altitude, not doing what I should be doing. I'm still guiding my missile through Datalink. I'm gonna fire another one. Here. Fire another one. Now there's a missile coming towards me, so I guess I'm just gonna panic and fire another one because I'm a noob. Now here, I did a U-turn, which means I lost him on radar. I evaded the missile. So now I'm gonna recommit. I'm still going way too fast. Look. There he is. Oh, I think you might be cooked, bro.
I'm cooked.
I think you're cooked.
I'm using head on. That's why.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I mean, we still might be able to do this. I don't know. I feel like I'm launching at missiles though.
Oh, here I'm basically in orbit. Oh, you fired the wrong dude. Oh no. Oh no.
See, I see your smoke trail. I can't see you. I think you're above me.
Oh, there you are.
Oh my god.
This thing is so fucking fast, dude.
Yeah, like this is now a point where like I have no idea where you are. You probably have a better idea where I am because now you're.
So the problem here is you just lost awareness on where I was. Yeah, this is me.
Yeah, and because it's 120, it won't pull. So you had nose on better.
Yeah. So I'm basically trying to apply. Well, we are basically trying to apply all of the stuff that we should be doing. Let's do one more, but this time I'm just gonna be a fucking dummy. So again, we're not allowed to go away from each other. We're not allowed to notch. We're just gonna joust, flying towards each other, and doing the thing. So again, I'm gonna simulate like I'm a naive noob, so to say. I'm gonna be flying in a straight line towards you without reacting. Don't worry, I'm gonna explain the vertical notch after this. Now, just a kind of unrelated note or tip. Do not get deceived by the maximum range of your missiles. You should always use the nest as a point of reference on how deadly your missile actually is, because you need to keep in mind that the maximum range here is significantly affected by the battery life of your missile. So something like the Phoenix, it's gonna show you like it has a fuck ton of range, but in reality what's happening is that the missile has so much battery that it basically flies at really dogshit slow speeds towards the target for a very long time. So when measuring your launch parameters towards your target, you should always try to use your NES instead of the maximum launch range. There's a missile coming my way, so I'm gonna try to evade while staying at the exact same altitude. Maybe that hits me.
I think it does. Wow.
Oh, one missed?
Wow.
Oh, there we go.
Oh.
How do you read the NES indicator? Okay, let's do one more so I can explain the NES.
Air, 12 o'clock, low.
Where are you? There you are.
Yep. How are you able to track me so early?
I don't fucking know. I'm using the TWS head-on from really far away.
Yeah, same. Like you,
Okay.
you don't, I'm not able to lock you until like. Damn, that's crazy.
Alright, here's the thing. So, the NES is this little bracket you see right here for your missile. Now, the NES stands for no escape zone. And this basically determines that if your target is within the nest, in theory, the missile should have enough energy to hit them, regardless of how much they maneuver. So that's why it's called the no escape zone. It means that it doesn't matter what the opponent does, they should not be able to outmaneuver the missile, and it's basically guaranteed to hit them. Now, there's a problem with the nest, right? So technically, it allows you to read how deadly the missile is going to be, sure, because you can see he is about to enter my nest, which means
You're in
that
my nest already.
yeah, at this point, this means that my missile is guaranteed to hit him. It doesn't matter if he turns cold or not, as long as he stays on the exact same speed and as long as he stays on the exact same altitude. Now, I'm gonna fire a missile at him right now, so he's inside my nest, right? So the only way this nest is actually going to apply and stay truthful is if he keeps the exact same speed and the same altitude. Now, right here, he's kind of at the very edge of the nest, right? So if he turns cold and drops altitude while accelerating, then that nest is kind of going to be a lie. So let's do one more engagement. I'm gonna try to showcase the nest from my
I'm just gonna see if this
perspective.
missile hits me or not.
I probably won't.
Yeah, I've notched it. Alright. I'll just clip that for context.
All right. So in order to explain the nest, or at least see if it's actually true, what we're gonna do this time is I'm going to fire my missile like a little bit inside the nest, so just barely. But I want you to basically maintain your altitude as best as you can and also maintain your speed. So I want you to go cold from the missile while maintaining your altitude and without accelerating. So the very moment I fire my missile, I want you to like maybe slow down and just maintain that specific altitude and speed you had at that moment.
Okay.
Yeah. So basically, if the little bar is within the bracket, he's within your nest. Yes, that's how it is. And the deeper he is in your nest, the more likely it is that your missile is actually going to hit, unless it gets notched. All right. Slow down a little bit, Rover.
Yeah, I'm going Mach 1.52, Mach 1.5.
Okay. So he is decently enough in manage. I'm going to fire. So take a look at your speed and altitude. I'm going to fire. Now, I want you to go cold the very moment it goes pitbull, and I want you to maintain your altitude
Oh,
and
when it
your
goes
speed.
pitbull? Sorry.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. Just keep doing. Keep going. Keep going. So he is going to do a U-turn, and he's going to maintain his speed. He's also going to maintain his altitude. Oh, I was not expecting you to fire on me. I'm gonna shoot it down because I'm a shitter.
Oh, no problem. Yeah.
So
Real life engagement, trust.
yeah. So technically, if he stays at that altitude, you can see my missile right there. So if he stays at that altitude and that speed, my missile in theory should catch him. Now the nest is not necessarily always honest, because there are some other factors, like the fact that the missile bled speed when he maneuvered. There's my missile. It's kind of dead chasing something. There he is. Okay, why did you recommend? No, you were not supposed to recommend. You just do a U-turn and keep flying away from the missile.
Oh,
All right.
go cold.
Yeah.
Apologies.
All right, let's try again, and only go cold once the missile goes pitbull, not before.
Yep.
Air, 12 o'clock, low.
I'm gonna climb to about 20,000.
Yeah, 20,000 is fine. The thing is, these planes are so fucking fast that the nest just grows way too easily.
Just throw them the Eurofighter nest.
Air, 12 o'clock, low.
Thing's filthy.
So I'm gonna try to fire this missile like a little bit deeper in the nest.
I'm just gonna launch on these bots so they don't clutter my radar.
Aubergine.
Okay, there you are. Okay, it starts slowing down a little bit.
Okay.
There, so you can see he's very well inside the nest. I'm going to fire now. Okay, maintain that speed and altitude for the time being, and
Yep.
only go cold when he goes pitbull.
Yep.
And now, in theory,
now.
as long as he maintains that altitude and speed, my missile should still be able to hit him. Because he should not be able to escape from it. You can see there goes my missile. Missile probably bled a little bit of speed there. And no, it didn't hit. No, it did not hit. It's completely out of energy now. So I don't really know exactly how accurate the nest is. I think for missiles like the M120, I think for missiles like the M120 is probably over exaggerated. But in theory, that's kind of how it should work. Like technically, if a target is within your nest, they should not have the energy to, or like the ability to run the missile out of energy. Like the missile should still catch them, but in this case, I would imagine it's because the F-15 is so fucking fast. But yeah, I'll keep flying in that direction, Marauder, at the exact same speed and altitude. So I'm gonna bring him just slightly inside the nest. You can see here, this little bracket is the maximum range. So I'm gonna fire like this, and in theory, that missile should at least hit.
It's pitbull. It's about it.
Hello, James. Yeah, so it's pitbull. So I fired that within the nest.
I might get despawned if it doesn't kill me first. Yeah, it's very close. That should kill me.
Yeah, it probably should. So you can see the speed vector of my missile here on radar. There it goes.
Hopefully it kills me before I get despawned. Oh, it might have run out of range.
No, it's still going. It's still going.
I got despawned.
Air.
Oh.
12 o'clock. Low.
Alright. Yeah, like the nest is like a decent indicator of how lethal your missile actually is. But I think the way I see the nest is kind of like
Air. 12
the
o'clock. High.
range of your missile in a tail chase. So instead of being kind of the no escape zone, it's kind of like an indicator if your missile is going to have enough range to actually kill a target that is going cold. So that's why we tried to test in there, but it just didn't fucking work. But yeah, that's basically how you read the nest. It's basically the lethal range of your missile. So if you
I can bring
target,
something like a Phoenix and you look at my, like you just watch my share.
I mean, I think I have the Phoenix too, but I don't really know if they have a nest indicator because last time I checked, they
They
don't.
do.
But yeah,
they
I
should,
think
no?
the nest. So if you take a look at the radar screen, I'm gonna draw a fucking square. So this is our radar screen. We have the target somewhere in here in the middle. You will see the maximum range of the missile. This is what the target is. And then you will see the minimum range, which means nothing. And then you will see a fucking bracket that is the quote-unquote no escape zone.
Yeah, you're right. They don't have a NES.
Yeah, so I think we all call it no escape zone, but in reality, I think what this is that this is the distance at which the missile can actually catch the target if he's going away from you. So, say for example, this target is running away from us in our radar screen. Let's say he is 2,000 meters. So 2,000 meters. And this guy is flying at Mach 0.9. So under these parameters on the target, the nest adjusts automatically. Now the target is right here, so he is not in the nest just he's not in the nest just yet. So what I believe the nest is that it indicates the maximum range of your missile in a tail chase. So in this case, if the no escape zone looks something like this, that means the target is in the nest. This indicates that if you fire your missile, it will be able to catch the guy that is running away. And I have actually noticed this myself on missiles like the R-27ETs when I'm firing against people who just don't see me, because people who fly away from me, especially when I'm tracking them with IRST, like they have no idea I'm there, right? So they're not going to maneuver, they are not going to accelerate or anything. They're basically just in there maintaining these parameters. So something that I noticed is that the nest in this kind of circumstances is actually accurate. It actually represents the range of your missile in a tail chase. So that's probably the best way I can describe the nest and how to read it. It's basically the range at which your missile will be able to catch the guy if he's running away from you. Not the no escape zone. Well, we still call it the no escape zone, but it's not really it, because I guess we just found out it is not. It just doesn't work. But from my experience, and this is something I noticed a lot of times when I have played the flanker, is that every single time I fire my 27ET within the nest against somebody who's running away, it basically always hits. So that means that this little thing here is basically the range at which your missile will be able to catch the target if he's running away from you. That's in my experience, that's what it is. So we call it nest, even though it's not a nest, but we can use it as an indicator of how lethal your missile actually is, or how fast it is. Now, how about we go into vertical notching? I'm going to make a smaller map. So this is going to be a Tunisia, because we are going to be very close to each other. So Tunisia. This one should be good enough. I'm going to send you an invite. Yeah, I find Nest works best when they're coming hot as their max speed, so even if they turn, it'll be a few seconds before they return to max. I mean, yeah, so I guess you can still kind of use it as a no escape zone. So the deeper the guys in the no escape zone, the better chances it is that the missile is actually going to catch them. But against a target that is not reacting or not aware of you, say for example, like you're tracking somebody with IRST on the flanker, and you fire 27ET within the no escape zone, that means that the missile will have enough energy to catch them, even if they are running away. Because if you think about it, let's say this is you, and you are chasing a dude that is running away from you. And let's say there's a separation between both of you of like 8 kilometers. 8 kilometers. So you're in the flanker, you're firing 27ETs, right? But the thing is, you need to keep in mind both of you are moving. So even if you fire your missile, you need to keep in mind the missile is going to have to travel a longer distance than the current distance of the target, because the guy is moving. So the missile has to intercept way ahead of time. It has to intercept way ahead, right? Because the guy is moving. So the missile has to intercept the target way ahead here in front. So what I believe the no escape zone indicator on radar is, it indicates if the missile will actually be able to travel all this. This is going to be like maybe 13 kilometers. So this is what I believe the no escape zone does. And it does it very reliably, because again, from experience, when I fly the flanker with 27ETs and whatnot, this works very well. It also works very well whenever I fire Fox 3s at people who are running away. So if there's somebody running away from you, say you're very high up, you have somebody here running away, the no escape zone is actually very reliable to tell if you fire the missile, if it's going to be able to actually intercept the guy and catch them. Because remember, the missile has to intercept way ahead where the guy is going, right here. So I think the nest is a very reliable way of telling if your missile will be able to catch them. However, again, what I said earlier also applies. The no escape zone only works if the guy you're chasing maintains their altitude and their speed. Because, for example, if I'm gonna delete this. Now, let's say you fire a Fox 3, or you're about to fire a Fox 3, and this guy is well within the no escape zone. So this is the no escape zone. Imagine this is the no escape zone. He is inside it, right? But this no escape zone only applies to the current speed of the target and his altitude. So if this guy is doing 7,000 meters, he's flying at 7,000 meters, and he's going Mach, say for example, 1.1, which is not great, not terrible, it's decent. So this nest that you see right here only applies to these parameters that the target has. Now, you can see he's not really that deep in the no escape zone. He's basically at the very edge. He's right here, right? So he's right there. He's not that deep inside the no escape zone. Now, you fire your missile, expecting it to hit. But what's going to happen is the target is going to get an RDR warning. And they're going to start diving. They're going to start losing altitude. So instead of being at 7,000 meters, they now dive to 2,500. And because they're going downwards, now they're going very fast. Now they are going Mach 1.4. Like an F-16 should definitely be able to achieve this very easily. Now, under these parameters, the no escape zone actually shrinks a lot. Which means that the missile that should have been able to catch the target, if he stayed up there, right here, now is not going to be able to catch the guy because he changed his parameters. And the missile is not able to catch them anymore under these new parameters. So overall, if you're chasing someone and you want to make sure your missile hits them very nicely, you want to make sure the no escape zone is the best possible it can be. So you can see here, the guy is barely inside. So this might be like a gamble, assuming the guy stays like at a similar altitude. But preferably, you might want the target to be a little bit deeper on the no escape zone. Say, for example, something like this, right? So not too much of a difference, but it definitely makes it more reliable. So at this distances, you can see he is very well in the no escape zone. So even if he drops altitude and he starts diving, maybe it's still going to be enough for your missile to catch him. Right? So your missile comes here, goes pitbull, and when the target changes parameters, the missile has to change trajectory and start chasing him on the way down. Maybe it will be able to hit him. So the better it is, the more the target is close to your no escape zone, the better, basically. We all understand that. But that's basically how I read it. So instead of being a no escape zone, it's more like an indicator if your missile will be able to catch the guy that is running away. Kind of like that. War Thunder's nest is very oversimplified. That's true. But I also don't really expect these fucking lazy bastards to do much about it. Now, here, I'm going to take the SU-27. You're free to take whatever you want.
Maybe I take Hornet or 16C?
I can take Hornet. Hornet has a lot of missiles. But initially, I don't want you to fire anything at me. I just want you to hard lock me so I can actually showcase how I can break the lock more reliably.
Maybe, what about Jazz 39C, the British one? Just because high pull missile as well for when we deal that.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Actually, I'm going to take the F-15E because there is something very important I want to showcase about vertical notching, okay? Ready up? All right, so initially, we're not going to fire at each other. I just want you to lock me with your radar. I'm going to take chaff. I just want you to hard lock me. That's it.
Right.
I guess the indicator just shows how far your missile can hit the guy if he keeps flying at that exact direction, altitude, and speed he's currently flying. Yeah, exactly. That's basically what I did, what I explained all this time. But it's basically like the... basically tells you if the missile will be able to catch the guy that is running away from you or not. Alright, he's hard locked me. So here's one very important thing you need to know. Slow down, by the way.
Air brake on. Air brake on.
So if you try to notch in a straight line like this,
Air
it
brake
can
on.
become very
Air
difficult
brake
because it's a lot difficult to stay in the notch, especially if he cranks, right? Actually, J out and respawn and lock me again. So here's what I want to showcase, right? I want you to hard lock me and immediately crank behind my plane.
Air 3 o'clock. High.
Hey, can you put smoke on? I have no idea where you were.
Air 3 o'clock. High.
I have the smoke on the deck.
There you go.
Okay, slow down as much as possible, just keep locking me. So,
Yep.
and make sure to crank towards my rear.
Yep.
Now, if I'm flying very slow and I'm trying to notch flat, you can see he is cranking, he's slotting it behind my plane, so it's a lot more difficult for me to stay perfectly in the notch, right? So I might be able to get in the notch momentarily, but look, he is still going towards my rear. So I'm not able to stay in the notch, I have to do a lot of corrections. So it becomes very tricky. Also, this is another very important thing. I want to talk about the AOA you pull on the jaw axis. So whenever you get into the notch,
AOA.
you might think it's a good idea to use rudder to position yourself into it, right? So if you use rudder, you're gonna be pulling AOA in the yaw axis, especially on a plane like this that is a fucking boat. So if you pull AOA on the yaw axis, you can see on the RWR the contact moves, right? But the reason why it's moving is because the plane is pulling AOA. It doesn't mean necessarily that you're notching correctly. So what a lot of people do is when they notch, they use rudder. So they're basically pulling in AOA and they think they are in the notch, but in reality, your flight vector isn't. And remember, notching is all about closure, not angles. So the way notching works is that pulse Doppler radars detect closure. So pulse Doppler radars can only detect things that are going towards or away from them. A pulse Doppler radar basically detects movement. So if you fly at a 90-degree angle towards the enemy pulse Doppler radar, it's gonna look like you're not going towards or away from the radar. So your closure is basically zero. And because your closure is basically zero, the radar just assumes you are a tree or a rock or a terrain. So it just filters you out. So when you fly perpendicular to a radar like I'm doing right now, it's gonna look to the radar like I'm basically not moving, because I'm not going towards it, I'm not flying away from it either, just like the ground. That's why pulse Doppler radars lose lock, and this is the concept of notching. However, I'm gonna go back to the point of AOA. So if he locks me, lock me again, and try to slow down a lot. So he's locking me.
Doing like 300 knots.
If I try to position myself into the notch and I pull AOA, it's gonna look like I'm in the notch, but in reality my flight vector isn't. Because this particular plane pulls a lot of AOA on the yaw axis and it takes ages to stabilize itself. Now, the best way for me to show you guys the AOA is using something like a gun sight. So I'm gonna slow down even more. So here, the gun should be perfectly aligned with the center, right? But you can see as I move the plane left and right, the gun sight takes a little bit of time to stabilize itself because the AOA. Actually, I'm gonna J out. Let's try that again. Hey, just J out. I'm going to make my plane a little bit heavier. I'm going to take bombs. I'm going to showcase the AOA a little bit better. So just to show you how much AOA this plane pulls on the yaw axis, I'm going to slow down. And I want you to pay attention to my bomb side. Okay, I'm gonna slow down more. I'm gonna fly very slow. So technically, if the plane pulls 0 AOA, the gun sight should always be perfectly aligned with the center, right? Let's see where the pepper is. accelerate a little bit more. Now here, when I pull rudder, you can see that my bomb side lags behind. And remember, the bombs are purely guided by inertia. So the very moment I release them, they are flying in a straight line. So that's basically where they're going to hit. But here, you can see that my flight vector is right in front of me. Well, not my flight vector, but my AOA, my nose of the plane, is pointing this direction. When in reality, my flight path is right there. So the difference between the location of my nose and the bomb side is how much AOA I'm pulling. I don't know how many degrees this is, but it's like 10. Right? So if I pull left and right, you can see how my bomb side lags behind. That's because the AOA my plane is pulling. And this kind of AOA that you pull with rudder can really fuck up your notching depending on how heavy you are, depending on your plane, and depending on your speed. So you can see how my plane is pulling AOA a lot on the yaw axis, which means if I try to notch Marauder right here, I want you to still crank towards my rear. So because he is going towards my rear, he is constantly changing the direction where I need to notch from. I'm gonna enable smoke again so you can see me.
Yeah, you like notched me actually. It's kind of funny.
There we go. Okay, so if I want to position myself into a notch and I'm in a very heavy plane, you think it would be like intuitive to use rudder, but this is gonna make it a lot more difficult because, again, I'm pulling AOA. I don't know exactly where my flight vector is, and you can see how much it's lagging behind. You can see how much AOA the plane pulls on the yaw axis. And this only gets worse depending on the plane, it gets worse depending on whatever, right? Now, in this case, I'm notching his radar, I'm notching the radar on his plane. However, if he fires a missile at me, that missile is gonna basically be on ACM all of its way towards me, right? So, fire a missile if you have one.
Need to watch you again, you're actually notching me.
So, if he fires a missile at me, I would need to notch perfectly the entire time, because if I stop notching momentarily for just a moment, his missile is going to reacquire me. Let's try that again.
Here we go. Oh.
So like, notching his radar is easy because he loses the lock and he's unable to reacquire me again. But if it was a missile, the closer the missile gets to my plane, the slightly more difficult it becomes to notch. And if you fail to notch momentarily for just 1 second, the missile will reacquire you and it's going to update its inertial navigation and it's going to find you again. So here, just fire whenever you want. I'm going to slow myself down as much as possible. Like this. Fire whenever you want. So because I'm so slow, I'm going to try to stay in the notch as best as I can. I'm going to use rudder. And because I'm using rudder, I don't know exactly if I'm notching or not. I don't really know if I'm in the notch or not.
You notched my radar.
I notch his radar, but not your missile. Your missile is still coming my way. Okay, it missed because I'm so fucking slow. But technically, like, not notching in a straight line is just not reliable enough. Here comes another missile. I'm going to make sure the missile sees me for a little bit more. And I'm going to try to notch with my rudder. Oh, it missed. What you could do is actually fire the missile from like a weird aspect, like towards my rear, so it makes like a weird curve. I'm going to climb also to not multipath. So here, if I try to notch in a straight line and using my rudder, I literally have no idea if I'm notching correctly or not, and I eat the missile. Okay, now I'm going to switch to a plane that isn't dog shit. I'm going to switch to the flanker. And I'm going to explain the vertical notch from 0. And why, how, and what to do with it. So vertical notching is... It's not only a defensive maneuver, it's also an offensive stance. So vertical notching allows you to defeat missiles, but also like gives you a significant amount of advantages over the other guy, depending on what's going on. So I'm gonna take my usual loadout on the flanker. I'm gonna take minimum fuel. Why not? And I just want you to fire missiles at me. Do whatever. Immediately if you want. I don't care. So he fires a missile at me. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna notch, but I'm gonna notch with a partial loop like this. And I'm gonna explain why in a moment. I'm gonna enable smoke, and I just want you to hard lock me. And try to slow down as much as you can. Just slow down. Oh, that's a missile. Hold on.
Yeah.
Okay, so vertical notching is basically you just try to get into the notch while doing a partial loop. So you can see I'm using the elevator, right? Stop firing missiles. So I'm using the elevator. I'm basically doing a perpetual loop. If I keep this going, I'm going to eventually form a loop. You'll be able to see the smoke behind me. So I'm basically just doing a loop. Now, the reason why vertical notching is so useful is because I don't have to use rudder. So you saw earlier how I told you guys that using rudder makes you pull AOA, and it might actually fool you into thinking you're notching, but in reality you're not, because you're pulling AOA. Now, what vertical notching allows you to do is you can use adjustments on your aileron. So you're rolling like this, you're rolling left and right, and this allows you to more accurately position yourself into the notch. So let's see if we can get away from each other a little bit. I'm gonna fly away from you for a moment, and I want you to be as slow as you can, just maintaining lock on me. That way we can just minimize our closure, right? So you can just lock me right now if you want.
Yep.
So he is radar locking me. Now, I want to know exactly where he is, so I'm gonna immediately get into the notch. And I'm kind of in the notch, so I'm gonna start rolling my plane a little bit left and right, so I can actually position myself very carefully and drive the contact into a perfect notch. And this is what I'm doing. I'm gonna drive myself into a perfect notch. You can see I'm doing very minor adjustments left and right like this. It allows me to position the guy perfectly in the notch while minimizing my AOA on the jaw axis. So right there, he loses lock. I'm kind of notching him purely by visual right now. I'm just notching him with my eyes. Once again, he locks me, and I'm going to position myself perfectly in the notch. Like this. These little adjustments that I do here allow me to very carefully position the contact in the RWR perfectly into the 90 degrees. So that is one advantage of it. Alright, how about you J out and respawn? Now just lock me immediately whenever you want and just fire a missile immediately. So let's say I'm just minding my own business somewhere in here. I'm just chilling, vibing. I get a grip and ping, immediate close. Fire? He fires a missile, and I have no fucking idea where the missile is coming from. So I quickly do very quick adjustments while doing a loop. And because I'm doing a loop, it kind of allows me to visualize how the contact is moving through RWR. So even if I don't have visual on me, if I don't have visual on them, I'm kind of using triangulation, just looking at the contact moves through the RWR to find out where he is. So even if I don't see him. So I'm gonna disengage. I'm going to simulate that I get ambushed from like below me or whatever. I'm gonna climb.
Okay, I'll drop below.
Yeah, just lag behind me a little bit.
Yep.
Now, lock me right now. Don't fire, just lock me.
Okay.
Now, let's say I'm just minding my own business, and boom, I suddenly have a gripping behind me, close. What I do is, I don't see him just yet. I just want to see how his contact moves in my RWR, and this allows me to kind of triangulate where he is. So just looking at the trajectory I'm having and how his contact stays in the notch, I'm able to triangulate more or less where he is. It would kind of be the same if he was very high up on me. Like say for example, I get a lock to my left, and there's somebody locking me from this direction, I don't know where. I'm gonna start vertical notching, and I'm gonna pay attention to how the contact moves in RWR. And this would allow me to determine whether the guy is going high up or he is low. And this is one of the other benefits of looping. right? Now, lock me again, Marauder. So I get a grip and I'm immediately trying to get into the notch, and I'm trying to see how the contact behaves in my RWR. This allows me to have a better idea of where he is coming from. Where should I be looking at? He's somewhere right there, right? So you can see he's very close, and he is coming like from this direction, like he's somewhere around there, right? So from this angle. And literally, yeah, okay, well, I got visual on the guy, he's right there. So that's the other benefit. You can use vertical notching to triangulate where the guy is coming from. So you get ambushed out of nowhere, and you do it quickly and accurately. You can determine where the guy is coming from. Whether it's dark or cloudy or anything, you will be able to tell where he is coming from. If he is on the deck, if he's very high up. And the same for missiles. You can also determine where the missiles are coming from. That way you can actually notch a little more accurately. Alright, I'm gonna J out. Let's J out and reset. Now, how about we simulate an engagement where you're gonna be multipathing and I'm gonna be high up?
Alright.
So here I'm just chilling, roaming around easy, minding my business, looking for targets, or running around with my radar off. I get a grip and ping, and I know for a fact my radar will not be able to find him in time. Just fire a missile and keep multipathing towards me. So instead of bothering pointing my radar in that direction, I'm just gonna let him come towards me. I'm gonna take a look at the missile trail to pay attention to where he's coming from. And I see this guy is multipathing. Yeah. So I see this guy is multipathing. Now, I'm gonna keep perpetually notching him. And if he wants to keep engaging me, he will have no other choice but to pitch up. So pitch up, or rather, let's say you're a newbie, you want to pitch up and kill me. The very moment I see the target pitch up, I counterattack with an HMD, counter launch, and go back into notching. So with vertical notch, you can maintain a defensive posture on whatever altitude you're at, and you can bait multipathers into pitching up. So right here, if Marauder just focuses on multipathing all the time, yeah, if you're a dumb player and you're just multipathing, you can use vertical notch to maintain altitude safely above them and bait them into pitching up. So if they pitch up, they die, and if they don't, they basically just give their 6 for free. So this guy is multipathing, I'm gonna fire at him. He didn't counterfire, but that missile is coming from such a high aspect, it might be very difficult for him to notch that. So let's try that again. So immediately when you find me, I want you to just start multipathing towards me and fire multiple missiles if you want. So again, I'm gonna be at I'm gonna be at slightly high altitude.
I'm trying to find
you. There's a griffin somewhere to my right. I want to get visual. I don't want to turn into him because I know my radar is too dogshit to actually find him reliably. He fires a missile at me. I see the multipather, so I'm gonna start vertical notching him. I defeat his missile. Here, he seems to be like ignoring me. I'm gonna counterfire. He's still multipathing. He's gonna engage me again. So here, with vertical notch, I'm able to just maintain my altitude over him very safely. Just keep notching. Now, if he keeps multipathing like that, he basically gives me his 6. Or sometimes they just lose visual on me because they are so busy trying to not crash into the ground.
Oh no, where is he? Oh no. I'm revealing my position with flares and chaff.
See, like this, so I fire a missile from a really weird aspect. He has no idea where the missile is coming from, so he has no idea where exactly to go when notching. And he dies. So with vertical notching, you can just maintain altitude over multipathers. So, if you're flying above a multipather, there's multiple things that could happen. They see you, and they want to pitch up in order to fire their missile. But if they pitch up, they leave multipath, which makes them an easy target. So you just slap him in the face and go back to notching. at the same time, because you're doing vertical notch, you're very, very above them. Sometimes they just lose visual on you, and they just keep flying in a straight line. In which case, you get their 6 for free.
I'm gonna simulate premium player in the Hornet.
Okay.
It's like typical, I'm just gonna chase you and launch all my missiles at you.
Yeah.
If I can find you on radar. Oh no, MiG-29 is pinging me. What do I do? I can't see him. Oh, I'm gonna fly in a straight line. Spam Sparrow.
Yep.
Oh, that's a 9-0 flare. Oh,
So I see a Hornet player just zooming in towards me. Look, see, he's pitching up. He's pitching up. I'm notching his radar. He's kind of tunnel vision, wondering why he cannot pick me up. I fire my missile. Get into the notch. Oh! Too late. It was too close.
Like, even the first one was a good, like, that notch.
Yeah, I think this map is also, like, way too small.
Yeah.
Alright, there.
I'll hit the deck again.
Okay, yeah.
And then I'll launch a long-range one, because I guess why not? I'm new to the game, I take my missiles, American Tech that kills everything.
Yeah. So I'm getting launched at by a Hornet.
Straight.
I see the missile trail, so I'm gonna go vertical notch.
Oh, why am I locking a missile?
I'm very
Where is he
carefully
not following me?
notching him, and I can see, I got visual on him. I see him, he's pitching up. I want him to get a little bit closer. I'm still dropping chaff to decoy his radar. I'm going to counterattack and go back into notching. You can see his missile just ate my chaff,
Oh no.
and he dies. You see me do this shit all the
What's your
time.
Iron Dome spam? Lazy's like, we should simulate Iron Dome.
You see me do this shit all the fucking time. Very realistic actor simulator.
Yeah, I'm acting a little too well, I think.
You should simulate against top tier Iron Dome missile spam. No, because that would be basically me giving a tutorial on people how to play top tier, and that's literally the last thing I want. If you motherfuckers play top tier, you're actually stupid. Alright, so what else is there to show about vertical notching?
Maybe I top down you with Derby.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good scenario. Close range, high off-board missile.
Yeah.
I'll just play normally, I guess.
Yeah. I want to see how I play it out. There's a Gripen in front. I cannot really find him, so I'm just gonna assume a defensive posture immediately. I don't have visual on him yet, but I want to see exactly how his contact moves in my RWR, so I can at least determine more or less his altitude. I don't see anything just yet. Do you see my smoke? Oh, I see you.
You probably see me. You like notch my radar perfectly. Oh, there you are.
Okay, so fire a missile. There you go. I'm basically just dropping chaff to make sure I keep his radar notch and he cannot counterfire on me.
Yeah, HMS could not hard lock you.
Yeah, so the HMD, so his HMD was literally unable to pick me up because I'm basically just notching him perfectly the entire time. So what happens to a lot of people is they usually get like tunnel vision, like, why is my HMD not working? Why is my HMD not working? And then they have the missile coming to their face, and they're so focused on trying to get a counterattack that they just cannot react. So they get tunnel vision on you. Basically a way to play mind games against people. Notch this missile, close range counterfire, and I keep notching.
That should kill me. Oh, yep.
Now, another thing, I want to just explain the last reasoning of why vertical notch is so fucking effective. And that is, we need to understand how radars work, or at least radar missiles work. Where is the picture? This. Missiles can be more or less dangerous depending on if they come from above or below. Now, the reason for this is because radar missiles have two methods of guidance. They have a pulse Doppler filter, just like many top-tier radars, they have a pulse Doppler filter. And they also have a normal pulse filter, like the exact same operating mode of very old radars like the MiG-21. Yeah, like these kind of radars that just eat chaff immediately, regardless of what the guy is doing. So you will see radars like in the MiG-21. Let's run it again. I'm gonna switch to the MiG-21 just to showcase it, right? And just to drive the point home, I'm gonna switch to the MiG-21. There, MiG-21 BIS. There you go. So the MiG-21 doesn't have a pulse Doppler radar. It has a pulse radar. So the pulse radar is basically a radar that detects the reflections on the enemy. So because it's only looking for reflections and nothing else, that means that the very moment the opponent drops chaff, it's basically over. So see if you can climb where I can lock you, Marauder. Just get a little bit of altitude to get away from the ground clutter. There he is. I'm gonna get a little bit closer. Okay, I have a lock on him. Watch what happens to my radar when he drops a single piece of chaff. Or drop multiple. There. My radar just got decoyed. Apparently my radar is detecting something right in front of me, but he already flew past. He's right there, right? So my radar got decoyed by the chaff. Because this is a pulse radar.
Click on search.
No, this is
That's
because
you can see like how it shows multiple targets almost.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna turn around. I see him. So I'm gonna point my radar towards him.
Able to see me in the trail.
I'm gonna point my radar towards him. Right here. And I'm picking him up, right? So I'm only detecting a single contact, but the very moment he starts spamming chaff, just drop a lot of chaff, you can see my radar is just detecting a fuck ton of garbage somewhere. And I have no idea what the target is. So the reason why this happened is because this is a pulse radar. So pulse radars only detect reflections. I think I explained it somewhere up here. How pulse Doppler radars work. No, I immediately start explaining pulse Doppler themselves. But basically, radar missiles of all kinds, they have both methods of guidance. So they have pulse Doppler. They have a pulse Doppler guidance. They have PD guidance, so pulse Doppler. And they have pulse. And they switch between one and the other. Now, here's why vertical notch is so useful. So, for your vertical notch, you maintain altitude. You might be able to drag the incoming missile towards the sky. So let's say if there's a missile coming from below, the missile has to pitch up. And when you notch, you defeat the pulse Doppler field. I'm gonna get rid of this shit. Let's start again. Let's say you're flying here. You're flying at very high altitude or something like that. And you have a missile that is coming a little bit below you, like this. So this is a missile. The missile is pointing towards the sky. And right now, this missile is using two methods of guidance. It's using the pulse Doppler, and it's also using the pulse guidance. It's the exact same thing I just shown you with the MiG-21. So the pulse Doppler, we already know how it works, or should know how it works. This is the radar mode that detects targets inside clutter, and you can notch it or whatever. So let's say, for example, somebody launches a missile at you from below. You see it coming, and then you start vertical notching. You vertical notch. Now, when you notch, you defeat the pulse Doppler filter. However, the pulse still exists. So if you vertical notch without using chaff, this missile is still going to hit you because it's using its alternate guidance mode, pulse. So in this case, even though you notch and you defeated the pulse filter of the missile, it's still guiding through pulse. It's still looking for its regular reflections on your plane, and it's still going to hit you. However, if you notch and you drop chaff, so there's going to be little clouds of chaff everywhere while you're vertical notching. Well, the notching is going to defeat the pulse Doppler filter, and the chaff defeats the pulse. And that's why whenever you vertical notch, you will see missiles deviate from you, and they do a weird turn and they eat the chaff, right? So they leave you alone. So from your perspective, it kind of looks like this, right? So let's say, for example, you are flying high up and you have a missile coming towards you. So let's say the missile is kind of already in the notch. So the missile is notched right here. And when you drop chaff, while also notching, you will see the enemy missile do a very sharp turn behind. Like, so instead of flying past you, it just immediately goes to the right. The reason why this happens is because it's eating the chaff. So when you notch, you defeat the pulse Doppler filter. Also, chaffing makes the notching window a little bit bigger. And the other method of guidance is the pulse, right? So when you notch, you can see here the guy is basically notching. When you notch, you defeat the pulse Doppler filter. And when you drop chaff on top of that, you also defeat the pulse filter. And that's why missiles go for chaff. However, something different happens when the missile is coming from above. So I'm going to draw the ground. It's going to be brown this time. So this is the ground. You are flying close to the ground. It's important that you are close to the ground, okay? So you're flying close to the ground. And there is a missile that is launched at you from above, and it's coming from orbit. Once again, we have two guidance methods. We have the pulse Doppler filter, and we have the pulse. So the pulse is the one that only detects the echoes. The pulse Doppler filter detects the Doppler shift, whatever. Now, here's the main difference. When missiles come from above, if the missile detects ground clutter in the way, if it detects that the pulse is not going to be able to deal with the ground clutter, then this method gets suspended and the missile will switch to pulse Doppler. So if the missile is coming from above and you're flying too close to the ground to where the pulse filter is not working, then the missile will default into the pulse Doppler filter, right? Now, because the missile stays in pulse Doppler the entire time, the only way to defeat it is going to be by notching. However, because pulse is completely disabled, this prevents the missile from eating your chaff. So a lot of times, when you try to notch a missile that is coming from above, let's say I'm gonna delete the guy. I'm gonna draw it again. So let's say, for example, you are already notching. So you're close to the ground, you're notching the incoming missile. You still need to drop chaff. You still need to drop chaff in order to notch, because chaffing basically saturates the pulse Doppler filter and makes it more difficult to the computer to actually filter you out. So that's why chaff is still necessary. But when the missile is coming from above and you notch correctly, you're notching, and you're also dropping chaff, then the missile will fail to track you, but it's not going to eat chaff. It's not going to go for the chaff. It's going to be very difficult. So the missile is still going to kind of approximate your location with the inertial guidance. So the IOG that you see on missiles. So the IOG is basically you can think it's like a computer that can kind of estimate your trajectory. So the IOG can remember which direction you were going. It also remembers your speed. So let's say you're doing kph, 1000 kph. It remembers your heading. So the IOG can technically predict where you're going to be, even if the missile doesn't see you. So the missile can still kind of approximate where you're going, and might still be able to proxy on you and kill you. But this is basically the main difference on what happens if the missile is coming from above or is coming from below. And I explain it here on this little MFV. So if the missile is coming from below, you can force the missile into eating chaff because you can defeat both the guidance systems at the same time. You defeat the pulse Doppler, and the chaff defeats the pulse. And because all the tracking methods are suspended, then the missile will default into the pulse and it's going to track into chaff. So that's why you will see missiles eat chaff. However, if the missile is coming from above, usually the pulse guidance gets suspended and the missile will stay into pulse Doppler the entire time. And because pulse is suspended, it's not going to eat chaff anymore. So this is probably one of the main reasons why if somebody is firing at you from orbit, it can be a lot more tricky to defeat the missiles. Now, that's not really all. There is a kind of a third situation. So if you're flying a little bit high up, like this, and there's a missile coming from orbit, the pulse guidance can still maybe track you, because what's going to happen is once the missile starts going towards you, it's going to ask, does pulse still work? Can the pulse guidance still work to track this guy? Because remember, even if you're flying high up in a plane, say for example you're on a MiG-23 or something, you're looking down towards target, sometimes you're capable of tracking targets even if they're below, right? So as long as there's a little bit of distance between the target and the ground, the pulse can still be able to extract the target and track it, right? That's why, for example, even if you don't have a pulse Doppler radar, you can still track a target that is flying low, because they are not really that close to the ground. So in this kind of situations, pulse can still work. So again, we have the two guidance methods. So we have the pulse Doppler. So we have the pulse Doppler guidance of the missile, and we also have the regular pulse. So in this case, because the target is decently far away from the ground, that means that pulse guidance is still on the table, right? So whenever you notch this missile, right? So you notch, you drop chaff, you defeat the pulse Doppler filter because you're notching, right? However, because the pulse was still somewhat reliable, was still active, this missile can still eat chaff, depending on your altitude. As long as there's enough altitude between the ground and you, sometimes incoming missiles will still use pulse guidance and they can still eat chaff. However, as we saw in the previous example, if you're flying very close to the ground, then pulse tracking is completely useless. Like, the pulse will not be able to detect the target in ground clutter like this. It's too close to the ground. So in this other situation, then the pulse Doppler the pulse filter gets disabled on the missile. It's unutilized, and the only remaining guidance method of the missile ends up being pulse Doppler. In this case, the missile is not going to go for chaff. Now, another reason why this is important is data linking. I also explained the importance of data link around here, right? So let's draw one last scenario to apply what I just explained. So this is the ground, okay? This is a bad guy. Let's say, I don't know, he's gonna be flying in this direction, I don't care. He's close to the ground, and he's flying this way. And this is you in orbit firing missiles at the guy. So here comes your missile, okay? Now, because the enemy is flying so close to the ground, pulse is not going to work. So immediately, the missile finds out, hey, pulse tracking is not going to work. We might as well just disable it and not use it at all. So pulse is not going to work. So the remaining guidance that is available on the missile is going to be pulse Doppler, right? Now here's the thing. Because pulse is not working, it means that the missile is not going to eat chaff. It's going to be very difficult. And even if the target notches the incoming missile, so the guy can notch the incoming missile, and he can defeat the pulse Doppler filter. However, there is another thing that is happening here in the middle. And that is Datalink and IOG. So technically, your opponent might be able to defeat or at least notch the missile. He hasn't defeated the missile yet, so he is notching it. So the pulse filter is inactive from the get-go. So the only remaining guidance is pulse Doppler. And in this case, we already know that the missile will not eat chaff. So when the missile gets notched in this situation, you can probably see on Megan Fox's video. Where is Megan Fox's tutorial? This. You guys really need to watch this video.
Normally, when you not...
So you search for Megan Fox tree on YouTube, and you search for this YouTube short. It's called "There's More to Datalink Than You Think." Actually, how about we just watch it together? It's really, really important because it's basically explaining what I just said and what I'm about to say. Okay? I'm gonna mute myself. Let's watch this.
Normally, when you notch a Fox 3 in War Thunder, it's going to look a little something like this. The missile is tracking me in its terminal guidance phase. I go into a notch to defeat the Doppler filter. The missile's Doppler filter shuts off and then becomes vulnerable to my chaff. What if I told you there's a way to bypass this defense if you're shooting top down? I've fired an AMRAAM here that starts off in its inertial guidance and data link phase as usual. Once it starts tracking in its terminal phase, my target is going to go into a notch. However, my missile is not interested in the chaff. It has switched back to inertial guidance and data link. Because the missile is looking down, it doesn't want to shut off its pulse Doppler filter and therefore is not becoming vulnerable to chaff. Instead, it's asking for data link updates from my radar, which is not being notched. If my target recommits, the missile tracks him again and he dies. Click on the related video for more. Normally, when you notch a...
So basically, he in like a 20-second short explaining everything that it's taking like 15 minutes to explain. So it's basically all this, right? So if you have a missile that is coming from orbit, it will shut off its pulse guidance because pulse is not going to be able to track the target so close to the ground. And because pulse is disabled, it's not going to eat the chaff. But even if the target also defeats the pulse Doppler filter, the missile that is right here, this is the missile, the missile will switch into Datalink and IOG. So the missile cannot see the target anymore, but your plane's radar still can. Your plane's radar is still detecting the target, and it's providing data link information to your missile, like this. So your missile doesn't see the target, but your plane does. So your plane, with the data link connection and the IOG, is able to communicate with the missile and provide updates on what the target is going, or where the target is going, or in what it's doing. So what sometimes is going to happen is the missile, thanks to the IOG, is going to get incredibly close to the target because it's receiving information from the radar on the plane. The radar on the plane is telling the missile where to go. It's telling the missile where the guy is, even if the missile doesn't see it. So a lot of times what can happen is once the missile gets so close to the target, it is possible that the pulse Doppler filter will be able to detect them again, which causes the IOG to update. And it allows the missile to proxy on you and kill you. So this is something that can, for the most part, be exploited with top-tier planes because they have such reliable radars. So I'm going to showcase it one more time if you're still available, Marauder. Oh, it's in an event. Okay, it's fine. So I'm going to go to test drive.
It's fine.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna send you the invite.
It's funny. I just started, and you're like, "Hey, are you available?" I'm like, "Ah."
I'm so sorry. I'm not gonna bother you. Just do it after this. So let's do one more round.
What am I bringing?
Anything. You're gonna be my victim now.
Oh no.
Alright, so I'm going to showcase the effectiveness of IOG plus Datalink. Or at least try to. I'm going to take the F2, which has an insanely powerful radar. It's an ASA. So the Datalink connection is literally significantly more reliable on this plane. Now, what I want you to do, Marauder, is I want you to notch my missile. And I'm gonna try to use Datalink guidance to guide it towards you. So just fly a little bit above the ground, so not multipathing. I'm going to fire the missile, and I'm going to provide Datalink updates to it. So just notch my the missile, not the radar. So here, you can see that little line above the contact. That means I have a Datalink connection to him. Now he notched it, so the pulse filter was still active, which means it's very likely the missile needs to come down from a much more aggressive aspect this time. So I'm going to climb even more. And I'm going to fire the missile now. And I'm going to try to keep providing... Okay, yeah, I just lost lock. Never mind. Let's try that again. I found him. I'm going to fire the missile ahead of him. And then I'm going to drag into the opposite direction. So both the missile and my radar are coming from different angles.
What did that AM4 do, bro?
I don't know. I think it's probably, like, you're not flying close enough to the ground. You probably need to be a little bit closer to the ground. You have too much altitude. So try to go towards, like, the end of that river in the middle of the map. No, just get away from me a little bit more. I want to fire this from as high up as possible to make sure the pulse filter is completely disabled. Okay.
Air brake on.
Yeah, just a little bit above multipath is fine.
Air brake on. Over G. Over G.
I found him. So I'm gonna fire a missile ahead of him.
Lock.
And I'm gonna turn the opposite direction to provide data link. So this little line you see above the contact means there's a data link connection still established. So I'm gonna be providing data link updates to my missile in hopes to actually at least allow it to proxy towards target. It is barely flew next to him. Let's J out and try again. Alright, how about this time you use notch without using chaff at all?
Okay.
Like, you can still defeat the pulse stopper filter, so my missile is not gonna see you, but the data link might be able to just bring the missile so close to you. Okay, I'm gonna get more altitude. I'm gonna fire the missile ahead of you, like this, and I'm gonna crank it the opposite direction towards your tail. So there, he's gonna try to notch my missile without using chaff. So he might be able to defeat the pulse Doppler filter of the missile, but because I have data link, it might still be able to just proxy on him and kill him. Or at least allow my missile to... There we go. Almost. Like, I saw that shit on radar, almost hit you, so... Try to recommit again. Okay, I'm gonna fire a second one. Right there, and I go to the opposite direction. You could probably see on my radar screen just how incredibly close that missile is going to get. Look at the radar.
Yep,
And you go ahead. Alright, let's have a look at the replay to see how well that worked. So I'm gonna open up the replay real quick. Replays. I'm gonna go to the last engagement. Oh, it's not rendering the missiles for some reason.
Oh. It's odd.
Yeah, I fired a missile and it literally didn't render.
Let me see if it renders from here.
Yeah, missiles are not rendering. I just fired another one and it's not rendering, bro. It's probably because of the time skip. Okay, there's one. So you can see the very moment the missile loses lock, it will switch to IOG plus Datalink. So right now he's notching the missile, but I still have a Datalink connection on it. And for some reason there it ended up eating the chaff. So you can see it switched into track mode because it ended up eating chaff. So I think it's because the missile was still coming like kind of perpendicular to target instead of coming from top down. So that one didn't work, unfortunately. This one, it was just a very bad launch and the IOG could not find the target, so it just flew in a straight line. This one also got notched.
That last one was very close.
Okay, this one is tracking. So you can see the track, Seeker is tracking the target. I'm maintaining the link connection. And look, right now, he managed to notch the missile. So you can see it's in IOG plus Datalink. So right now, it's receiving Datalink updates from the plane. And you can see, like, the Seeker is literally locked onto him. IOG plus Datalink. You can see the Seeker is perfectly aimed exactly where he is. Unfortunately, just at the very last second, the missile ended up eating chaff. Like, once it gets that close... Yeah, I think once the missile gets that close, if you're not directly on the deck, it can still like eat the chaff and re-enable the pulse filter. Now this one is very close, so he is notching without using chaff. Okay, my missile just switched to IOG plus Datalink. Now here you can see how the missile is still perfectly pointing its Seeker toward the target, and it's gonna get very close. So I'm gonna go to the Marauder's perspective. And look, that should have actually killed him. So you can see the missile doesn't see the target. However, the IOG was predicting exactly where the guy was going to be. And it was also receiving Datalink updates from the plane. So even if the missile missed... Oh, he was multipathing, that's why. I think he was multipathing. So even if the missile missed, it was so incredibly close to killing him. I'm gonna watch the last missile launch from his perspective so you can see. Here. So I launched the missile. He's gonna be getting into the notch. IOG plus Datalink. So you can see the missile suspended is tracking because it lost the target. However, you can see the Seeker is still pointing perfectly at him because it's receiving Datalink. He's notching the missile. Look, he's notching the missile perfectly. And it still killed him.
I think the one before that just for some reason didn't proxy.
Probably, yeah.
Because that one was just about as far under. It was underneath me.
So I guess technically they can still eat chaff, but well, I was expecting from the video that Megan did that was not supposed to be the case. But still, look, we are seeing the exact same case of the pulse Doppler filter switching to Datalink. So overall, if you're guiding your missile towards a target that is like defending and you're not being shot at, that means you can just maintain your Datalink connection at all times because you can just keep tracking the target. So Datalink and IOG can actually allow your missile to either get incredibly close or just straight up kill them, and sometimes even ignore chaff a little bit. Yeah, I guess it didn't work as well as I was expecting, but I think it still applies. Like I
mean,
remember
it's hard for me to not like go to my defaults. Like even without chaff, I was like, oh, I have to not vertical notch this missile.
Yeah. So what else are we missing? I think that should be all, right? So we explained a little bit of vertical notch. Why?
We did semi-active. We did active radar homing. We did, like, you demonstrated pulse radars. You demonstrated long-range stuff, close-range activity, more or less. Like, at this point, the only thing you could show is, like, how broken the mica is, or, like, maybe launching, like, a 77-1 in the notch with an
okay,
SM2,
yeah,
like,
I could show how to abuse the track mem. Yeah, let's make it one more lobby.
I'll bring
anything, really.
Maybe I bring flanker. I'll bring flanker. It seems like I can do funky notch stuff.
All right, now I'm going to showcase how to abuse the track memory of some missiles. Not every single missile has this feature. Mainly only the R77-1 and the Mica, as far as I know. Oh, and the M120 Delta, but that thing is just garbage and it's never going to pull anyway.
Yeah.
All right, so initially just don't fire anything on me. I'm just going to showcase how track memory works.
Can I try and, like, notch?
If you want, sure. But I'm not initially I'm not going to fire anything at you. I just want you to hard lock me and do whatever. Just fly in a straight line towards me. I'm not going to fire anything.
Okay.
All right. So one feature that every single radar in the game has is a little short-term memory. So for example, here I'm gonna crank Marauder and I'm gonna bring him outside my radar, and you can see my radar switches to track memory momentarily. So what's happening is that the radar is kind of remembering where the target actually is, even if you lose lock momentarily. Like here, you can see it stays in track memory for a moment. So I'm gonna see if I can find him again. I don't fucking see him. Clouds.
Should be like above you.
Oh, there you go.
Your right, I think.
Okay, here. So I can lock him momentarily in my radar. Now, if I lose lock and then I recommit, then the radar should usually be able to remember where the guy was. So here, for example, I'm gonna lock him. I'm gonna wait for him to get outside the gimbal of my radar, like this, and then I can recommit just in time, and I get the lock again, right? Because the radar remembers where the guy was. It also remembers where the guy was going, and its speed and whatever. So there you go. Track memory. I'm gonna recommit before it disappears. There you go. It requires the lock automatically. So if you crank a little bit too hard, you still have like maybe a couple seconds to recommit towards the target and still maintain the lock. So that is what track memory does, and it's basically a mechanic that applies to every single radar in the game as far as I know. Now, here's where the Mica comes in. The Mica is a missile that has 0 launch limitations when it comes to gimbal limit. So something you could do is you could lock somebody like this, and then you can just do a whole U-turn and you can fire the Mica from memory mode, and the missile might be able to do a whole 180 and still hit the target. Now stop notching and flaring. So let's say, for example, I'm being engaged by some dude and I'm in an incredibly vulnerable position. I can lock him momentarily, go into memory mode, and I can fire my missile from this angle. And
Yep.
yeah. Okay, respawn again. I'm just gonna do it a little bit more aggressively this time. So you can see that even though he is outside the gimbal of my radar, the memory mode still allows me to launch the missile. And because the missile is receiving all that information from the radar at the moment of launch, the missile knows where to go. So here, for example, look. I'm going to ready up my missile. I'm going to bring the radar into memory mode, and I'm going to fire at the last moment. And the Mica can do a whole U-turn and go towards the target, like that. It's mainly useful for like very close range. So, how about this time you try to engage me, Marauder? Just fire some missiles at me.
Alright. ER or 77?
Any you want.
Okay.
So I'm gonna simulate a little engagement with Marauder this time. So there he is. He's kind of outside the range of the Mica, so I don't want to fire yet. But I'm gonna vertical notch. I'm gonna enable periodic because it's easier. So I'm notching him. And the very moment he gets too close, I'm gonna get him on radar. I'm immediately gonna get into the notch. And I can fire the Mica from inside the notch from memory mode. That would probably hit the ground. So when I try it again, oh, never mind, it did.
Nope. It went down and then came back up.
Now that is something that the R77-1 also has, but it might not be as relevant because everyone is going to be flying the SM2, and the SM2 has turbo gimbal limit anyway. But if you were flying something like the SU-30 SM, you can still abuse this kind of thing. Now the reason why it's only like used in 77-1 and Micas is because it's literally the only planes that have it. So every single other missile in the game has a limitation on the angle that you can launch it at. The Mica doesn't have such restriction. So you can get a lock momentarily, immediately start notching, and you can fire the missile from memory mode. And you can see that missile basically looks like it came out of my ass. Right? I want to switch to Rafale just to bring it up one step forward and just showcase how absolute fucking bullshit it can be.
Hopefully the weather clears.
Yeah.
Oh, can I go back to...
So here's one trick you can use with Rafale, which is even more busted.
I'll go Eurofighter because I can't return fire unless I put gimbal on you.
So what I'm about to show you is the most cheesy kind of shit that you can use in top tier to kill Iron Domers. This is literally the best counter for Iron Domers in top tier. And I'm going to show you how to use it.
Maybe off the bat, I'll just launch 2, maybe 3 missiles at you.
Okay. Now, this feature is incredibly fucking busted on the Rafale because the Rafale has a 140-degree gimbal, so you cannot fire from inside the notch, right? So your gimbal is limited. However, your IRST can lock up to 180 degrees to the side. So the gimbal limit of your IRST is bigger than the gimbal limit of your radar. So that basically means I can lock Marauder with IRST from inside the notch. You can see, right? I'm locking him. I'm tracking him with IRST. So what I could do is, without losing my lock, I could switch into memory mode on radar and fire my Mica from inside the notch. And that's going.
But even then, even while you're notching, you can still return fire.
Yeah, I can return fire while notching with a missile that is significantly better than the 77-1. So I'm gonna try.
You, but I can't return fire.
Yeah, here I'm tracking him again. I switch to radar. I fire from inside memory mode, and that might be able to go towards Marauder.
Should. Just barely notched it. Again, I can't return because of my gimbal. 120. Not yet.
Here we go.
Notch this one again. This should kill me.
This probably kills you. There you go. Right, I'm gonna do it again, but I'm gonna fire. I'm gonna try to make my missile do a whole 180-degree turn on you. So there, I found Marauder. Remember, memory mode lasts for a couple seconds. It gives you like 2 seconds for to react. So what I want to do is, I'm just gonna lock him with IRST, and then I'm just gonna fly away from him. I can fire a missile. I can fire a missile from this angle if I want. I don't think it's necessarily gonna hit, but the option is there.
It's not going, but it went.
So here I'm locking him with IRST from inside the notch, and if he tries to recommit, I fire. There we go. So this plane is literally like the best and probably only counter against Iron Domers, because how about you spawn one more time and just fire all your missiles at me? Like just fly in a straight line towards me like a zombie.
Emulate. Okay.
Say again?
I was gonna say Afghanistan, like, if I just climb large in the SM2, that'd be a perfect example.
Yeah. Do I have my smoke on? There you go. You spawned, but I don't see you,
I
though.
mean, this radar should be able to see you. Yo, why can't I see you? Best radar in the game?
Oh, I was way behind you. Never mind.
Oh. Well, we can just make this work like a real thing.
No, it's fine. There, I'm right here. Alright, so let's imagine Marauder is an Iron Domer in top tier, okay? So he's gonna be a fucking zombie. He's gonna be flying in a straight line towards me, firing all of my missiles, all of his missiles at me, right? Now, you can bait Iron Domer into getting close to you like this, vertical notching. And you can fire the mica from inside the notch by using the memory mode. And you can see that missile is gonna do a whole U-turn and almost slap him in the face. Just barely. Now, the only thing he would need to do to be a perfect Iron Domer is just J out.
Oh no!
Let's try it again. I'm gonna J out and reset.
Launch like 2 micas and I'll try an Iron Domer.
Yeah, okay.
That felt so horrible to say. Oh my god. I'm disgusted at myself.
It's like, oh, I'm playing top tier. I see somebody approaching me. I'm gonna fire a couple on him. And he's going to Iron Dome.
Oh, my radar won't see that. Oh.
So I'm vertical notching him.
Oh, that feels disgusting.
I'm vertical notching. I had visual on
I'll turn
him.
back in and launch. Oh, I
Yeah,
lost you. I'm gonna try and tunnel vision and find this.
So he definitely sees me. He's coming directly towards me. Look, I'm gonna enable periodic to reduce my workload. I'm tracking him with IRST, and the very moment he is close enough, I fire the mica from inside memory mode. And right here, he seems to be over defending, and he's gonna give me position. So I'm gonna fire another one.
And now I'm out of missiles.
And there you go, he dies. So this kind of cheesy tactic is basically your best counter for Iron Domers. As long as you know how to vertical notch and you defeat all their incoming missiles, you can just bait them into getting close to you and you just slap him in the face. Simple as that.
The only time it's very tricky is like maybe you kill one person doing the same thing, and then somebody else who's at like 50,000 feet mock Jesus, like third parties you. But just vertical notch, and if you can hold them in the IR, like that's my favorite thing about the Rafale versus the SM2. If you're able to get them close enough, once you reach a certain threshold, they just can't shoot down your mica. It moves too fast and
Yeah.
it turns too hard.
Yeah, because it's also doing a very aggressive U-turn, like in a random direction.
Like,
And like overall, I don't think your
I have a
radar.
good example, I think, here.
Yeah, I also don't really think you would have enough reaction time to do it. Okay, let's see what Marauder has to show us.
This is an example, actually, where it didn't work in my favor.
Okay,
Because
go
the
ahead.
mica chose to do, like, whatever. So there's a flanker. He's coming off right over here. I think he's already.
You're not
launched-
showing
or
anything.
launched a few missiles.
I only see your folder.
You can't see the preview?
No.
Oh, let's try this. Can you see that?
Nope.
What the heck? Here, hold on.
You might have to share the entire screen.
That's what I did.
There you go. Yeah, I see it. Let's watch.
See a flanker off to my left.
Uh-huh.
Actually, hold on. Let me. Can you see this preview?
Yes.
Here we go. So yeah, he's shooting down my missiles as I try to launch them in the notch.
Okay.
This is an example where I lose though. So he's that little dot right there. He's killed another Micah. I have him on IR, track mem.
That's too far away. Yeah, you have to get them a lot closer than that. There, the missile is coming slightly behind you, so that's not a very good notch.
Yeah.
Oh, he's fucking multipathing. Oh, okay. Alright.
Yeah.
Okay, you're recommending towards the missile right there. That's not a good notch.
No, that one died. It's
Oh.
what happens here. This
Oh, the
goes
missile just...
nowhere.
Yeah, the missile just eats shit.
And then
Okay.
Yeah.
So that should have worked. Okay, hold on. Go back a few seconds before you die. Okay, I'm pretty sure the missile would not have spun out if you went so slow. So getting that slow during vertical notch was your mistake.
yeah, like
The
barely 200.
the faster you're going, the better your missile is going to be, like off the rail. And if you're flying decently fast and you fire the missile, well, that energy is already transferred into the missile, right? And that speed gives the missile stability off the rail, and it prevents it from spinning out. So there, yeah,
That was
there.
also an ET, which is interesting.
Oh, it was an AT. Okay. Yeah, your mistake was
that was an ET, which is
your mistake there was just getting too close, too slow while vertical notching. But yeah, that cheesy tactic is basically your best counter against Iron Domers. Okay, well, that's a really fucking long video. I was actually not expecting it to be this long because, well, the longer videos people don't really watch them too much. But this is basically a very, very, I guess, detailed recap of these two tutorials that I have on my Discord server. So we have the BVR tutorial, which is a recap of cranking, the importance of altitude, how altitude is a double-edged sword, lofting, what it does, cranking, F-polling, and a bunch of different examples of vertical notch and shit. And then a little bit of radar tutorial in the mix too, because, well, radar missiles, you need to understand how they work, right? So, yeah, well, there you go. That should be all the necessary information. I'm gonna see if I can put some timestamps on it and share them so people don't have to watch the entire fucking thing without knowing when things are gonna show up. So I'll try to put some timestamps on it. So for the time being, I'm just gonna call it. So thank you guys for hanging out. I don't want to make this any longer than this should have been. It already is way too long. So, well, there you go. See you guys around. Bye-bye.
GG. I need to go take a freaking shower, bro.